Welcome back. And now for the news in detail. Iran says it faces economic terrorism from the United States with its sadistic sanctions. At the International Atomic Energy Agency meeting, Tehran's envoy called for an end to illegal unilateral U.S. sanctions. This comes after U.S. President Trump accused Tehran of secretly enriching uranium. Here are the details.
President Trump says Iran's enrichment of uranium violates the nuclear deal. Responding to the accusation, Iran's envoy to the UN watchdog, Kazim Gharib-Abadi, says Tehran has nothing to hide. He says enrichment is not prohibited under the Non-Proliferation Treaty.
We are producing plutonium, thousands of plutonium. You know that the issue of enrichment is not prohibited under the Non-Proliferation Treaty. This is the right of every member to the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and this is Iran's right also. And what we are doing is, in a very transparent manner, is under the surveillance of the IAEA.
Meanwhile, Europe's nuclear deal signatories have called an urgent meeting to discuss Tehran's compliance.
Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons has appointed a new investigation team to look into the use of banned munitions in Syria. The team from a global chemical weapons watchdog will investigate 9 alleged attacks carried out during Syria's 8-year civil war. The organization was created in 1997 as a technical body to enforce a global non-proliferation treaty. The US and EU support the new mandate of the British-led 10-member investigation team. The Syrian government and its allies Russia and Iran oppose its greater powers. Earlier in Syria, 11 civilians have been killed in airstrikes on a hospital in a ceasefire zone in northwestern Idlib province. 4 children are among those killed. A war monitor says the strikes were carried out by Syrian and Russian forces. Following 8 years of civil war, Idlib is the opposition's last major bastion. War monitors say more than 520 civilians have been killed since the coalition ramped up bombardment in the region in April. Moving on to Pakistan, where 13 passengers have been killed and 64 others injured in a train accident in Rahim Yar Khan district of Punjab province. The Akbar Express was derailed after it collided with the stationary freight train at Sadiqabad station on its way from Lahore to Quetta. Police officials say the passenger train driver took a wrong turn, causing the head-on crash. They say 9 women and 11 children are among those injured. Railway traffic has been suspended in southern Pakistan to allow the lines to be cleared. Officials warn the death toll may rise. In Afghanistan, President Ashraf Ghani has called on the Taliban to negotiate with his government. Speaking at a conference in Kabul, Ghani said in the past that time was not right for peace, but now is the right moment. He said if this opportunity is lost, the responsibility will be huge. The statement comes after a 2-day meeting between the Afghan Taliban and officials held in Doha. Women's rights, power sharing with the Taliban, and the role of regional powers were discussed in the intra-Afghan summit. Top Russian and US diplomats have failed to find a common ground in a meeting on Venezuela. Meeting in Helsinki, US envoy David Hale also discussed ways to improve bilateral ties with Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov. Ryabkov said they discussed the political crisis in Venezuela but failed to narrow their differences. Russia supports Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro, while the US is leading efforts to force him out of the office. The US State Department said Hale sought to foster cooperation with Moscow on political challenges in Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. This meeting was scheduled after US President Donald Trump and Russia's President Vladimir Putin held talks on the sidelines of the G20 summit last month. The UK has refused to grant visa to a Russian diplomat invited to take part in a media freedom conference in London. The Russian embassy has called the decision a violation of international law. The Global Conference on Media Rights is a combined initiative of the UK and Canada to improve the safety of the journalists across the world. Germany's Defense Minister Ursula von der Leyen has asked MEPs to support her nomination as the next head of the European Union executive. In meetings with the centrist and left-leaning blocs, she promised to fight climate change and pressed for gender balance within the bloc. The meetings in Brussels were aimed at building the majority von der Leyen needs to take office. In her first public comments, she expressed hope Britain would abandon its plans to leave the EU. She also promised to defend the Irish backstop provision in its withdrawal agreement with the EU. Von der Leyen said she wholeheartedly supports the goal of a carbon-neutral European Union by 2050.
We will have to be more ambitious because we are running out of time. CO2 has to have a price. If we want to set global standards, we have to move fast. We have to be more ambitious about the 2030 goals because climate neutrality by 2050 is a must.
Von der Leyen's promises to fight climate change were not enough for Green deputies who pledged to oppose her appointment. She needs 376 votes in the 751-strong European Parliament to be confirmed as President of the European Commission. The French government says its missiles found from a rebel base in Libya were unusable. The Defense Ministry says US-made Javelin missiles discovered in a camp south of Tripoli were purchased by France, but it denies supplying them to Libyan rebel commander Khalifa Haftar in a breach of the UN arms embargo. The anti-tank missiles were seized when forces loyal to Libya's government overran the rebel base in Qaryan. Somalia has executed 3 members of the insurgent group Al-Shabaab who were convicted of bombing a Mogadishu hotel in 2017. 18 people were killed and 47 others injured in the incident. Al-Shabaab has been trying to topple Somalia's government since 2011. A political crisis in the Indian state of Karnataka worsens as 2 more Congress MLAs have resigned. 16 coalition MLAs have quit the party so far, mounting pressure on the year-old Congress party-led government to step down. The Karnataka government has been given a respite after Assembly Speaker Ramesh Kumar sought 6 days to evaluate the resignations. The State Assembly Speaker says his office has processed 5 resignations so far. The legislators are camped in a hotel in Mumbai after resigning and refused to meet party's leadership. Meanwhile, 10 out of 15 Congress lawmakers in Goa State Assembly have split from the party and are set to merge with the ruling BJP. Since coming to power in India for the second term, the BJP has targeted opposition-led state government of Karnataka and West Bengal. For more on this, our New Delhi correspondent Neha Puniya joins us now. Neha, thank you for taking time out for Indus News. First of all, I'd like to ask, it's apparent that Karnataka state government is teetering on collapse. Why has there been so much discontent within its ranks?
You're right. Let me first give you the latest update on this story. This issue of the resignation of those members who had resigned earlier this week, not being accepted by Karnataka's Speaker, was taken to the Supreme Court here in New Delhi. And the court has directed that the Speaker of Karnataka meet those local leaders keen on resigning by 6 p.m. India time today, and that he will take a final decision on whether or not their resignations can be accepted, and that decision will be communicated to the Supreme Court by Friday. So the Supreme Court, in a sense, intervening, asking the Speaker to take a call by the end of Thursday. But you're right in saying that this is perhaps the beginning of the end for the Congress party in Karnataka. We've seen murmurs of this in the run-up to the May general elections, and now those worries that the Congress leaders were expressing seem to have come to bear fruition, and the discontent essentially seems to be with the lack of leadership at the ground level. For the last several weeks, you've got a leadership crisis playing out at the top ranks of the Congress party, with Rahul Gandhi saying he's keen on resigning, taking responsibility for that mammoth defeat for the party in the 2019 general elections. Just last week, he said that he was no longer party president, and that's thrown the local party units in different states into complete disarray. And the BJP also making its move very, very quickly, seemingly reaching out to these local leaders, and many of them are now currently in Mumbai. The local police also not allowing local leaders, including former Union Minister Milind Deora, from meeting any of these leaders. So it is essentially at the brink of collapse. If these resignations are accepted by this evening by the Speaker in Karnataka, then the Congress party will lose its majority. The BJP will be in prime position to form the government in the state of Karnataka.
Okay, Neha, as far as we talk about Karnataka and then West Bengal and now Goa, how much of this is opposition's inaptitude and how much pressure from the BJP union administration?
There's no denying the fact that when it comes to elections and government formation, the BJP never rests. I mean, it's only been 2 months since the general election ended with that mammoth victory for the BJP. And even after that, they're not sitting on their laurels. They've been moving quickly, talking to members of opposition parties. We've seen over the last 2 months a host of people across different states, especially West Bengal, a state that the BJP was targeting even in these elections, joining the party and its ranks in different parts of the country. So the BJP has clearly not stopped being in election mode. And the fact that the Congress is seeing this kind of internal crisis play out with no clarity on who's leading the party, what's happening at its state units, who should the party turn to for advice and guidance, the BJP is clearly making the most of it at a time of this internal crisis.
So Neha, even by these Asian standards, the horse trading has been pretty intense. How do you think that has been received in India overall?
The concerns you've just voiced are essentially the concerns of opposition parties in India as well. Important to remember that while the BJP is currently in power at the federal government here in New Delhi, there are many states where it's not in power, where there are regional parties or the Congress party in power in many states. And most of these regional players, including the Congress, which is the national party in contention here, have expressed their concerns about this, saying that the BJP is currently employing its monetary might to try and lure members away from their parties, to try and get them to defect to the BJP. And their contention is this is unconstitutional, this is illegal, and something that the courts should intervene on. In fact, one of the considerations for the Speaker in the state of Kerala would be that would this count as something that would lead to the expulsion of these local leaders who now seemingly have resigned from the Congress but are doing this in a manner that would benefit the BJP. So could the anti-defection law come into place? And that's really going to be the big question we'll try and look out for when the Speaker makes his decision later in the day. But you're right in saying that this is unprecedented of sorts, because it's not just one state we're speaking of. Like you said, it's happened in other states as well. Telangana, we saw similar scenes playing out for the Congress last year, not in favor of the BJP, but the local party there. And the worry now is the next target is going to be the other two Congress-ruled states of Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, the two states the Congress won quite recently from the right before the general elections.
Okay, thank you for updating us. Regarding the political crisis as it worsens in the Indian state of Karnataka. That was our New Delhi correspondent, Neha Puniya. Thank you, Neha, for updating regarding this development. Moving on, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has expelled a regional official from a meeting for having criminal record. Zelensky was meeting officials from Kiev region to discuss infrastructure projects. The official threatened legal action against Zelensky, saying the 2002 case against him was false. Zelensky won election in April, promising to root out corruption. Olorinde Ayanfiolova, a Nigerian artist, has discovered an unfamiliar way to transform scribbles into portraits, cartoons, and fantasy characters. Let's take a look at this report.
The Nigerian artist has found an unusual way of expressing herself. Creating art out of doodles, Ayanfiolova highlights challenges facing countrymen. Ayanfiolova has worked on more than 100 scribbles pieces in the last 2 years.
I was really frustrated because there was so much pressure on me, so I just picked up a pen. That was the only thing I could find around me. Being that I was a pencil artist, I had to use pen to draw, so I was frustrated, and then I just started doing jaga jaga, and in my jaga jaga I saw a face. I'm like, oh wow, then I moved on from there. So afterwards I started building on scribble art, I started mastering it, and then I figured that it was a better way for me to express myself.
The artist takes part in exhibitions and also creates awareness about this art form. Ayanfiolova's latest collection is about the regular power cuts in Nigeria.
So I decided to tell one of the lies the government told us. All these are politicians, they come in, they say that they're going to give us light, stable electricity and all of that. So this is an artwork that actually shows a normal, like an average youth screaming up NEPA.
She hopes to create awareness about the social evils among the public through her artwork.
More stories to follow right after a short break. Stay tuned with Indus News. In the highs of the business world now, US President Donald Trump has ordered an investigation into France's plan to tax foreign tech giants. The new tax will target firms such as Google and Facebook with a 3% levy on revenue generated in France. In a statement, US Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer expressed concern about the planned digital tax. He says Washington's inquiry will determine whether the levy will hurt the US tech companies. France says the tax will target 30 firms. Most of the American, British, Chinese, German and Spanish corporations will also be affected. The French Parliament is expected to approve the new tax today. American Airlines says the grounding of their Boeing 737 MAX has reduced its second quarter earnings by $185 million. The loss has been recorded despite the company raising its key revenue benchmark due to strong consumer demand. American Airlines has 24 MAX planes in its fleet. It previously estimated the grounding would hit earnings by $350 million. The carrier has extended the plane's grounding until September the 3rd due to uncertainty over two deadly crashes. But shares of American Airlines rose 2.5% in early trading. The company says this second quarter slowdown has hit its operations, causing cancellations and flight delays. Asian stock markets have risen over optimism that US interest rates could be cut later this month. Hong Kong's Hang Seng and South Korea's Kospi indices have risen significantly. Mainland Chinese shares, Japan's Nikkei 225 and Australia's ASX 200 have also gained a little. Oil prices are slightly higher in Asian trading. The dollar appears to be struggling against its peers after hitting a 3-week high on Wednesday. The angry fans of Indian team burned posters of national cricket team after it failed to land a place in the World Cup final. This came after the team lost to New Zealand by 18 runs.
India is one of the most cricket-crazy nations in the world, but right now fans are outraged over the national team's loss to New Zealand.
Our Indian team is out of the final of the World Cup. We are very disappointed as the confidence we had seen in the Indian team was not there today.
Many blame former skipper Mahendra Singh Dhoni for the loss.
Dhoni was putting pressure on Jadeja because if the opposition is playing well, then obviously you will also play well. I think Dhoni had the strike rate of less than 50, so we lost because of Dhoni. I think he should retire.
So,
India was one of the most favoured teams when the tournament started, and their defeat is seen as a major upset. The country is already a two-time World Cup champion.
Senegal have reached the Africa Cup of Nations semi-finals for the first time after beating Benin by 1-0. Senegal midfielder Orisa Goye has scored the only goal of the match in the 70th minute to end Benin's tournament. Benin were reduced to 10 men when Olivier Verdun was sent off near the end of a foul against Goye. This was the first Africa Cup of Nations match used the video assistant referee system. Tens of thousands of fans have thronged to the streets of New York City to cheer the World Cup winning women's football team. The US defeated the Netherlands by 2-0.
Thousands of supporters gathered along Broadway in New York City to celebrate the US team's 4th World Cup title.
Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave?
The team ended their victory parade in Manhattan before moving on to a ceremony with Mayor Bill de Blasio, who presented them with the keys to the city. The mayor said it's the highest honor the city can award.
4 World Cups never has been done in the history of American soccer. We are so proud that their first stop was the Canyon of Heroes.
Co-captain and Golden Boot winner Megan Rapinoe's optimism dominated the New York City Hall celebrations. She said it's an honor for her to lead team in the World Cup.
To everyone who made this happen, thank you so much. It's not possible without everyone. We really do appreciate all that it takes to shut down the biggest, best city in the world. For the biggest, best team in the world.
Look inside mine. Things look so bad everywhere.
Players were greeted with chants of equal pay during the victory parade.
And now the weather updates. And that's all for now. Further updates, stay tuned to Indus News.